Please.
Seema, can you hear us?
Yes, Sabani, I can hear you.
Okay, Seema. So we have almost all the speakers here, and the participants are also joining in. We are just dialing in also Stefan, one of our speakers from joining from Geneva. So we just ask him to join in quickly.
Sure, I'll just wait for a bit.
Seema, can you see me? Sarvani?
Yes,
I'm there.
yes, we can see you. Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon.
We can see you. Thank you so much.
How are you all? Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. Lakshmi, how?
Hi, Firoz. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, you tell me.
It is waiting really to
Now I think if we get back to normal, I will get the bombs. This is much better, no, much relaxed. No traveling. No traveling. Otherwise, now I would have been Seema and Sarvani would have been called me to Delhi.
some of the perks, yes, indeed. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll ever be back to COVID situations. But yeah, in terms of travel or otherwise.
You want, Seema, you want to wait for 5-10 minutes? What's the program like and how many
Yes.
people are joining us or joined already?
So, Chairman, there are about 40 people who have joined us already, and many more are joining. Some have just messaged that they are just finding some technical difficulty. We are sorting that out. Sarbani and team are sorting that out. They're emailing the link again to some people who have just mentioned that they are finding the link is not working for them. So we'll give it just 2-3 minutes, Chairman, and then
No, we'll wait for 5 minutes. Not a problem, because if some
Yes,
people are
please.
really facing technical issues, we should wait. Not an issue. 5-10 minutes is not an issue. And
Yes.
Miss Ira Singhal, she has joined.
Yes, she's joined. We can see her here. At least she's logged in. Video is not on, but she's logged in. We are waiting for Stefan to join from ILO. I think he's also going to join any minute now.
I think we will give 5 more minutes. In 5 minutes we'll start. 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Seema, you may start, please. Stefan has said that he has joined, so we will just find him out. He might be the attendees.
All right. Welcome everyone. It is my a very good afternoon to all of you, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this national seminar of CII and the India Business Disability Network on workplace inclusion for persons with disabilities, with a special focus on policies and incentives. As we gather on the eve of the World Disability Day, this is an important summit where we want to celebrate inclusion as well as remind us that it is our responsibility to respond and respect the needs of people who have special abilities. I would like to share with all of you that other than all the participants who have joined in on this link, the session is being live streamed on CII YouTube and all of the IBDN social media links. We are very, very excited today as we will be making some very important announcements. And we hope these announcements will further strengthen the inclusion ecosystem. We have also taken this opportunity today to invite and hear from key government representatives, both from the central government and the state, on what are the roles and responsibilities that as employers, the industry needs to be conscious of, and the role of government in enabling all of this. So I want to welcome each and every one of you and thank you all for being here. With this, I would like to invite the chairman of the CII National Committee on Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities and the India Business and Disability Network, Mr. Piruz Kampata, to kindly deliver the opening remarks. So over to you, Piruz, please.
Thank you very much, Seema, and very crisp starting. And I'm very happy that we got this national seminar on this virtual platform going. And I somehow believe, and I have become a lover of these virtual platforms. And I'm sure this will help us to have more such meetings in the future also. Before I start, I would like to especially acknowledge the presence of Lakshmi C, founder member, CIIBDN, and managing director, HR lead, Accenture India, who is going to give the special address. Thank you, Lakshmi, for being here. Ms. Ira Singhal, who is the brand ambassador of Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. Ira, thank you, and it's a really an honor that you found time to be with us today afternoon here. Ira, are you listening to us? Okay, I can see you now. I can see you now. And Mr. Istabel Trommel, Senior Disability Specialist, International Labour Organization. Also is, I think he has already joined or going to join, Seema?
He is just likely to join shortly. So we're going ahead, he's going to join soon.
And we have a very good second session also, which is followed by the small inaugural session with Ms. Srila and Ms. Riti. And Srila is from Tata Consultancy Service. Riti Dubey is from NetWest Group. Mr. Vikash Prasad, Director, Department of Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Mr. Prabodh Sheth, Joint Secretary, Department of Disability Affairs, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Mr. V.S. Basavaraju, Commissioner Disabilities, Government of Karnataka. And Srila Dasgupta, Group Lead, Disability and Neurodiversity, Tata Consultancy Service. Once again, thank all of these people for joining. And this richness of this seminar is not only the speakers, but I would also like to acknowledge the presence of all our committee members and others who have taken time off to join. And we are all in this very important mission, so I would use the word, because I think we need to catch up a lot on this. And it is so good that we have grouped up as a group to do this, what I call, and I'm not going to say it's a great Nobel or a CSR deal, and I don't think it is CSR. It is it's a duty on ourselves, and especially because it helps competitiveness and increases our overall capacities. And I always have linked employment of specially able people with our own performance. I think it improves the company's performance and our abilities. That's how I always have looked at it. Having said that, I have got a very crisp small presentation. With everybody's permission, I would like to share it. And then, of course, we'll go on with the presentation with other speakers. One second. Sarvani, I failed to acknowledge you. Thank you for all putting all this up. This is all Sarvani's effort. So let me start by talking about. Let me start up about talking about what we are doing. Our major mission is, as I said, empowerment of PWDs and IBDN working together. and ensure, and we have been working on this since 2016. And the India Business and Disability Network was launched in January 2019. And the IBD and action areas are knowledge creation, policy advocacy, and you can see in the second session we have participation from the central level and the state level, and we have been working very, very heavily on this, enabling employment, facilitation, and partnership services. So these are the type of things we are doing. And in terms of knowledge and capacity building, we have a capacity building and certification program. It is an annual certification program which has been so designed that it can advocate and implement it can be implemented by various companies. Then we have a manual for studies that also, and there we have done a DIY booklet on inclusion, breaking down barriers, champion of change, catalyze inclusion of workplaces. Policy advocacy is some major thing which we are doing. As you know, last time also we had a presentation, and we have been following up with the government at the central level and state level to ensure that various policies are made in such a manner that actually the employment of this is helped. And we are also today also, as I said earlier, having a special session on the same. I think all of you would also be aware that CII has gives always budget presentations and recommendations to the government, and in the past also a lot of CII's recommendations have been accepted by the government in various budgets in the sector, especially for this sector. I'm very happy for that. Job fairs is something CII has been doing since many years, and last year 4 job fairs were conducted, and of course in the COVID situation, online job fairs are being designed. And IBDN supports individual companies also to identify and hire appropriate employees from job fairs. The Valuable 500 is some very notable new initiative. It was founded by Caroline Casey and is a global champion to bring 500 CEOs. So that whole idea of this whole thing is discussed at the boardrooms. And CII-IBDN is the country level resource partner for Valuable 500. And we already have identified business champions in India to be part of this Value 500. And I would like to acknowledge and thank most of India's big companies who have agreed to be part of this initiative. And we are also acting as catalyst to act as a platform to connect companies to each other or to NGOs, service providers, and experts working in a domain of diversity and inclusion. COVID, as I said earlier, has brought us together, and I think CII has done a notable work in COVID across the sectors, and be it relief, rehabilitation, be working with the government. Even now, CII is working very closely on the vaccine delivery systems with the government. The government also has come forward and given a lot of reforms, and they have catalyzed growth, plus a lot of stimuluses have been given. And I acknowledge the great partnership between the government and industry in the COVID times. And I should also mention here that the government has been very responsive in COVID times. Having said that, we as our committee also has been working in COVID times for free counseling support, especially with sector skill councils for persons with disabilities, providing some support to mitigate the anxiety due to the coronavirus crisis. Helpline recorded around 200 calls in the first week. There were some issues with grocery deliveries, and we took it up with some econ companies on the same. Ration kits were distributed to vulnerable families of PWs with the support of IBDN members. And multiple sessions on accessibility guidelines for digital infrastructure as work from home also were sort of, propagated. Some key announcements I would like to make today. This is what I call what we are going to do in the very near future, and which is very important. One is launching a companion which will capture the practices adopted by 16 IBDN members in ensuring inclusion, safety, and well-being of people during the pandemic. And this whole thing is supported by ILO Global Business Disability Network. I generally believe these companions are very good because they showcase the good work and also inspire others to follow suit. Then with Sambhav, we are working, CII partnership has working with NetWest Group India in launching networking platform for people with disabilities and their careers. It's an open online solution exchange, and it is hosted in the CII IBDN website, and I thank the NetWest Group for their support. The other issue which we discussed last time in detail, and I'm very happy to sort of say that we are already rolling it out, is the scholarship for aspirational women with disabilities. I somehow believe that the education is key to almost all issues, all issues. Many times I believe almost all problems, including terrorism, racism, all types of problems, Naxalism, all the solution actually lies in education. So I somehow believe industry organizations should work very closely with education institutes to ensure good education, cheap education, and scholarship for people who deserve it. Having said that, for this woman in particular with disabilities, we are very happy that CI in partnership with Rasta has come out with a scholarship, and this will promote and support women students with disabilities and lead them an independent life so that they become examples to others. I will be very happy if other companies also join in, and I'm sure we will be able to expand much further in more cities if other companies are also able to join. And I think we should roll it out on a much bigger platform as we go by. The Workplace Inclusion Index is something we are doing in partnership with Great Places to Work. And this is something which will do a DNL assessment of inclusion practices of companies, and this will recognize the champions in diversity and inclusion. So this is the four areas where we'll be working on in the few weeks to come. Of course, our committee will be working on more smaller things and other things as you suggest. As I sort of, this is the end of my slide presentation, but before I end, I would like to once again thank all the members and the CI Secretariat for providing their full support in this noble initiative. With this, I would like to end and ask Seema to carry on with the proceedings. I'm here only. Seema, please go ahead with the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much. And it's your guidance and your immense passion for this subject that you have been able to give us so much direction. Thank you so much.
No, but passion, yes, guidance, yes, but knowledge less, because I somehow believe that there are a lot of people in our group who have much more knowledge in this sector. So actually, I tend to learn. So let me be very honest with you. You see, something like food or something like, what I call ease of doing business, I know the laws, so I can get involved here. Sometimes I feel that at least I have to learn from you a lot, let me tell you, honestly. So I'll be very modest by saying that people like Lakshmi carry much more knowledge on this sector than I do. But I'm learning. I'm definitely learning, honestly.
Thank you, Chairman. And all of us together, I think, can learn a lot. And that's why we have this network. And I would now like to invite Lakshmi C., Managing Director, Human Resources, Accenture India. Accenture has been one of the first founding members of IBDN. Lakshmi is responsible for leading the human capital strategy for all of Accenture's businesses in India. We're looking forward to Lakshmi sharing her perspective on how and why it is important as industry that we look at inclusion in a very focused way. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, Seema. Just checking. Can you?
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here talking today to all of you about a topic that's very close to my heart, both as an individual and in my capacity as the HR lead for Accenture in India. And like Piru said, we're also all, this is such a layered and complex set of challenges that we all need to solve for. I mean, today we have around 15% of the world's population, or probably an estimated 1 billion people who live with disabilities. And let's face it, persons with disability, they're one of the largest minority group in the world, and they're underemployed. And really, it's up to us to enable greater workplace inclusion of persons with disabilities. And that, in my view, goes much beyond just hiring them into the organization. It is about nurturing them. It is about providing them with equal opportunities to learn, to grow, and to succeed in their careers. And across the group, leaders are increasingly embracing the fact that inclusion is a business imperative for organizations to be really successful in especially in our current hyper-competitive market. And at Accenture, we are an equal employment opportunity employer, and we're very, very committed to make this a reality for our people, for all of our people with disabilities, and are getting to equal research that focuses on the disability inclusion advantages, highlighted for us how a focus on disability inclusion has a significant positive impact on several business parameters, whether it be increased innovation or improved productivity or improved shareholder value or market share, and access to a diverse supplier ecosystem, and above all, really, in enhancing one's our organization's reputation in the marketplace as well. So let me touch upon briefly, perhaps, how this research, getting to equal the disability inclusion advantage, has really helped us shape our approach to growing a culture of equality within Accenture. And we really focused on three pillars: bold leadership, comprehensive action, and the third one being empowering environment. Let me talk a little briefly about what I mean by each of these. The first one, which is around bold leadership, this is really about how inclusion really starts at the top, right? Senior leaders need to actively demonstrate commitment to promoting disability inclusion. They need to ensure there is effective representation of persons with disability within their organizations and across all levels. At Accenture, we not only have a global executive sponsor who helps guide our vision and strategy on this. Within India, we have an India Accessibility Council that comprises senior leaders from the various parts of Accenture here in India, whose objective is to really plan to define the roadmap for accessibility. And it's really, it's also helpful when organizations have a representative pool of leaders or senior role models who are from the community and in different roles of influence. So that's really about bold leadership, how we drive the direction and set the tone from the very top. The second element, second pillar is really around comprehensive action. What does this mean? This really is about ensuring there are programs, there are processes, there are actions being taken that are truly people-centric and are aimed to not just attract, but also how do you retain, how do you develop, how do you advance persons with disability. For example, more than 75% of disabilities are invisible. And yet most of our organizations focus their efforts towards inclusion of people with disabilities. The key question for us to ask, to assess really the inclusive maturity of an organization, is to review the diversity of disabilities that we hire and engage within the organization. That's how we need to make it more focused on the individual, because the level of support or accessibility requirement for each different type of disability is very, very unique. And what we've also done, therefore, is to look at each of our job descriptions to make sure that we are, we don't have any biases, unconscious biases there that create restrictions for persons with disability to actually apply. So all our roles are open for all persons with disability. We don't have a set of roles or a B set of roles only that are open. We have opened it all up for all persons with disability. We've changed and adapted our recruiting processes. We've trained our recruiters and our hiring managers to make sure that a candidate's experience is truly accessible. So they're enabling experiencing a very accessible recruiting experience. We launched about 2 years ago or 3 years ago an inclusive internship program, which really help interns with disabilities to go through a detailed sort of workshops, skills and tool refreshers, on-the-job training, professional skills training, all of it, which is really aimed at enabling our persons with disability interns with relevant job experience so that they become readily employable either within Accenture or elsewhere based on what their aspirations are. But we can't just stop there. Like I said, you can't just stop with hiring. You've got to create a framework to help them develop their careers. You're not hiring for a job, you're hiring to really help them build a career within the organization. So companies must offer ongoing mentoring, coaching initiatives, as well as skilling, reskilling, and especially in today's environment where skills are rapidly becoming irrelevant. We need to invest on an ongoing basis in skilling and reskilling and upskilling as well to ensure that our persons with disabilities continue to grow, continue to succeed in their careers. within Accenture, we have several flagship programs that are intended to enable this. For example, this is probably our 5th year of running what we call the Abilities Unleashed program. It's a 5-month leadership and capability development program for our persons with disabilities, very dedicated for our persons with disabilities, that focuses on leveraging their skills and really building their leadership skills so they can continue to progress in their career within Accenture. So that's really the second pillar about having comprehensive action that enables people in their careers. The third is around having an empowering environment. So we had bold leadership, then you had comprehensive action. A third one, which is around empowering environment. This is really about creating greater awareness and sensitization for our people about visible and invisible disabilities. For example, things like genetic disabilities or learning disabilities or neurodevelopmental disabilities. These are not necessarily all visible. So we've invested heavily in training for our supervisors, team members, and we were actually working in our offices, all of our support staff, like the housekeeping staff or the security staff, really making them aware of disability etiquette so they're able to really enable and support our persons with disability. And this is where, for us, technology has been a huge enabler, right? We've used new and differentiated approaches, leveraging virtual reality and other simulation tools that really expedites the whole, our efforts around sensitizing people. Today we have a dedicated accessibility center for our persons with disability to kind of help them experience assistive technologies, experience enablement devices, so they can then choose really what's relevant for them. For example, we have an offer, several homegrown technology solutions, something called Dhwani. Dhwani is really a voice to text and a text to voice conversion that supports really communication with persons who have speech, hearing, and language disabilities. Or Drishti, which is really, this is a co-innovation between Accenture and the National Association for the Blind. It's an AI-powered application that narrates the physical environment around the individual to the visually challenged. And so these are some of the technologies that are available for persons with different kinds of disabilities to pick and choose from. And to really help them, we then put everything on an adjustment request tool so that it's a one-stop shop for reasonable accommodation that can be requested with some support and guidance. And backing all of this, we've created a central accessibility fund, which so they're all accommodation requests around transport or workplace or assistive technologies. All of that can be managed and approved seamlessly in just one place. But the other element of an empowering environment, I think, is as an organization, we cannot just, we need to look beyond. We need to look beyond our immediate workforce and really make an impact in the communities we live in as well. And last month, we launched a diverse supplier development program. This is really focused on developing our diverse ecosystem partners. So people who work with us and provide services to us, how do we, and who are led by diverse leaders, how do we strengthen them and how do we elevate their impact on the communities by potentially really helping them create more opportunities and ultimately economic growth all around. So we actually now have leaders from within Accenture who are mentoring some of these some of these leaders who manage these organizations that are also our supplier partners. So those are really the three dimensions of bold leadership and comprehensive action and empowering environment. And very shortly, on the occasion of the International Day for Persons with Disability, we will be releasing Chapter 2 of the same Getting to Equal Research. That's going to be based on surveys of executives as well as our people across multiple organizations, which highlights the expectations of persons with disabilities with regard to their own career growth, development, and also understand some of the key factors in the workplace that helps them really thrive. And this research will help organizations really refine or fine-tune their strategies and programs to align much better to the aspirations of the persons with disability and to address what is interestingly emerging as this perception gap, and this is, and I don't want to talk too much and leak out more, but this perception gap is something I'd urge you to kind of look out for. This is really about the gap between how inclusive the leaders feel they are and how included the persons with disabilities really feel. So there is a gap today, and that's what the research is telling us. And this will help us really fine-tune our strategies to help narrow and perception gap. And I'd be very happy to send it out to all of you that are interested once the research comes out, or you can always find it on our website. So that's all I had to share, and thank you for the opportunity. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Seema.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you. And it was very, very helpful to understand the three-pronged focused approach of bold leadership, comprehensive action, and empowering environment. And we definitely will look forward to seeing and reading the research, and hopefully, like you said, it will help organizations recalibrate strategies to bridge the perception gap. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and we look forward to it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to invite Ira Singhal. And although she needs no introduction, I will still give a very brief introduction. Ira is an engineer and an IS officer. She has many feathers on her cap, and she, as the highest scoring individual in the UPSC civil service examination, she is now serving in the Department of Social Welfare of Delhi State. She's also the brand ambassador for the Department for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. So we are really looking forward, Ira, to hearing from you. And hearing from you, like Lakshmi said, your perception of what industry can actually step up to, and how much more proactive can we be in really building an inclusive ecosystem. Over to you, Ira.
Ira, 1 second, Ira. We can't hear you. Seema, there is some problem. I think the voice is cracking.
Ira, maybe we'll have to only listen to you, and if you could try switching off your video and yeah.
Because actually there is let us try now. Go ahead, let us see.
Which are
Yes, Ira, we can hear you. It's sometimes it is a little, but we can hear you better without the video. So kindly go ahead.
Okay. So I think the first is that to set is free now. We have 21. To set the on disabilities, categories, types of needs. Second is sort of this for each approval for each profile, is for the shop floor by standing at the position, it needs to be able to do these tasks. Tasks in the job, So I think that this issue is thinking about disability, thinking in terms of the limitation of the person. Yes, disabilities. And I went to inspection to home. So much to and I was inspected, and I found that the brushing area where they were setting the water, somebody had set up at the height, at the wash basin height, I can do that. And that's the problem of what I think inclusive sometimes if element is you have those people as part of the team, you might miss solutions for them. Also miss out on the customer market time recently. From a perspective, the more number of people are influential, the bigger economic costs. So if people, 50 people are working, and 50 people are not opportunities to work, or those who are working can earn 100 rupees. Let's 50 rupees. We will still look at the rupees of the system. Easier as an exercise for all of us to, get into that inclusion. So, I think that's all I want to say. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope these what it's been doing, if you can like it, helps a lot of people that it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ira, and it's wonderful to hear from you, and wonderful to hear the practical things that you have actually guided us on for us to really look out for, and as industry to look for these practical things to do. It is now my special privilege to invite our next guest, who is a very special friend of CII India Business Disability Network. Stefan Trommel, Senior Disability Specialist in ILO, International Labour Organization, where he drives the ILO Global Business and Disability Network. He has been our friend and guiding force for setting up the India Business Disability Network. Stefan has been actively involved in the negotiation process of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the first comprehensive human rights treaty of the 21st century. Stefan is joining us from Geneva. A very warm welcome, Stefan. Over to you.
Thank you, Rosima. Thank you for those very kind words. And let me start by congratulating the Indian Business Disability Network and, of course, the Confederation of Indian Industry as host and motor of the network, of the amazing work that you have been doing in the record time. I mean, since your network was launched, I have been more or less closely following what you've been doing, and I've always been impressed not only by the huge number of companies that have already joined your network. I know it's building on much of your previous work, no? But still it's extremely impressive. No? And also my profound congratulations for today's launch of the compendium. I glanced quickly through it. It's exactly what we need in the current times. We really need the private sector sending a positive message to the society in terms of disability inclusion in this complex year, which is not yet over. No, the current pandemic is not yet over, but we need. And I was also very impressed by the summary of the things that the chair of the network said. So I'm very impressed. My congratulations. We just had our annual virtual conference of the ILO Global Business and Disability Network last Monday. Sarbani represented the Indian network there and shared one of your initiatives, the initiative of the online platform. So, at that event on Monday, we launched a declaration through which the private sector organized within the global network, reaffirmed its commitment to disability inclusion in times of the pandemic. I think it's very important to do so. I also had the pleasure of attending a side event yesterday, not a plenary meeting, in fact, yesterday, of the Conference of States Parties to the UN Convention. It's happening this week. It usually happens in June, but this year it's happening mostly virtually this week. And there was a specific session on business and disability in that conference, the first time that this is happening in the plenary discussion. And Caroline Casey spoke there, your chairman spoke about her, the founder of Valuable 500. She also referred to collaboration with the ILO Global Network. We had one of the steering committee members of our global network attending also as a panelist. I made a small intervention from the virtual floor, so to say, and I gave India as one of the examples of a national network that even in the current complicated times is promoting disability inclusion in a really amazing time. So I wanted to acknowledge and recognize your amazing work in front of that global audience. As you know, this conference is like the annual virtual meeting on disability rights. And I think in that context, to be able to showcase the work of the private sector, which sometimes seems to be far away from disability rights discussions, but that is not the case, especially not the case in India. So I thought it was very important that I could share the work that you're doing in India at that event. It's clear that we are faced with challenges, in particular when you think about persons with disabilities working in the informal economy. I mean, this year is particularly complicated, no? But at the same time, it's also a year of opportunities. We are seeing that reflected in the compendium that you are launching today. We are seeing how after perhaps a certain moment where we were all a bit lost and trying to readjust to the new situation, to working from home, to checking whether the telework arrangements would work for everybody. But I think after a certain moment of, as I said, confusion for all of us, I think we're also seeing now really that the whole concept of disability inclusion as part of the broader diversity and inclusion, and your chairman also mentioned the work that you're doing in that context. I think what we are seeing, and you might agree or not with me, but I think you will be, because I think you're a perfect example of that. I really think that disability inclusion is picking up. And I feel that also within the corporate sector, there is now even, I would say, an increased understanding that the way out of the crisis needs to be a way out of crisis that fully respects diversity and inclusion and disability inclusion within that. We heard that again also earlier this week and yesterday also in New York, in the virtual New York meeting from Caroline Casey. There's really a flourishing right now of attention within the corporate sector to the issue of disability inclusion. And I attended just a few weeks ago the launch of the Business and Disability Network in Kenya, hosted also there by the Federation of Kenyan Employers. And also these reflections were coming from also in that context. No, they were even saying something like it's about people before profit. I'm not sure whether it goes as far as that, because of course you need the profit to continue running. But at the same time, I think there's a profound reflection that we're all having, both at personal level, but also as organizational level, and also within the private sector, that the crisis, which has shown some of the shortcomings, some of the challenges of our current system, the crisis is also an opportunity to rethink and strengthen and to become a more inclusive society. And of course, within that, an inclusive corporate sector plays a key role. I've just listening again to the amazing work that Accenture is doing. I've read some of the stories of the practices that you have reflected in the compendium. I think in India, you're really setting the tone for this new way of thinking about disability inclusion, which I think the crisis has, I would dare to say it has accelerated our thinking around that. And I think that is bringing us amazing opportunities. We are definitely moving from why are we doing disability inclusion? I think we are beyond that. We are now into the how. No? And it's exactly this compendium that is showing the work of employee resource groups, the work that organizations are doing to move really into, no, let's now sort out how we're doing this in the best possible way. We no longer need to waste our time in terms of making the business case. The business case is so obvious that let's now focus our attention on doing it in the best possible way. So Seema, thanks again for having me at your event. As I said, I'm really humbly impressed by the work that you're doing in India, and you're really showing the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, and we're really honored that you. Yes, please go ahead, Chairman.
I had two questions, if you ask me, for Stephen, and probably this is the right time to ask them. And to make it more interactive, I would say. Number one is he complimented us a lot, but I would like to know from him, because he has experience working in many countries, what are the things we are not doing we should be doing? Because I think that is very important to guide us that what we are not doing we should be doing. And number two is that if they have made a compilation of worldwide what other governments are doing to support this cause. So I'm not to say other governments, not only developed countries and medium countries, whatever, so that when we are making our representations, we can also quote, this is what is happening in other parts of the world, this is what is happening in India also. So these are my two very simple questions.
Well, I'm not sure whether they are simple, but I'm happy to answer them, because other will need to run away in a few minutes. Let me start with the second one. I think the second one allows me to highlight the fact that while we're seeing a lot of attention in the private sector, I mean, India stands as a clear example. I think that's a message to the public authorities. We need to make sure that the public authorities, when they are designing their response to those socio-economic crises that the pandemic has unfolded, persons with disabilities need to be a priority group. And I think that is very important that message also comes from the CII, not only from disability organizations, which for sure have been doing that extensively over the last month. But we need also the private sector voice by saying we need more support from the public authorities to that. For instance, public authorities could recognize the work of inclusive companies by paying attention in the procurement of public goods and services by the government, and highlighting and recognizing the work of disability inclusive companies. We need to get more attention to persons with disabilities in the government response. For instance, it's clear that digitalization will be a key element out of the crisis. We heard that also at the conference with leaders ILO when prime ministers and ministers of labor came together to discuss the way out of the crisis. Digitalization was a key element. Now, the question for me is, are we ensuring that in the focus that our governments are doing on digital skills and digital jobs, are people with disabilities getting their fair share of that? I'm not sure. And I think so I think the private sector is doing an amazing job in India, but I think we also have a role there to highlight even more to the government that the response from the government side needs to include even more persons with disabilities in that. What are you not doing which others are doing? I can't think of much, to be fair. I think you have increased the numbers of the network amazingly. You have this partnership with Valuable 500. You've become their official counterpart in India and have managed to get a lot of companies on that. I don't think that I wouldn't dare to say what more. I think it's interesting the work that you will be doing on the index. We're having some discussions right now about how to move towards accountability frameworks within the corporate sector. We have some accountability framework now within the UN. And I think that is an area, I'm not saying that many other governments or networks are doing so, but I think that is probably the next stage. It's going beyond examples of good practice, those you have, but perhaps what the next stage would be to discuss together, how can we measure accountability of companies, and basically to make disability inclusion an issue throughout any organization. It's about employment, but it's also about communication, it's about procurement, it's about working with your suppliers, and you've spoken about that. So that a lot of things that can be done, and I think that's that's the next stage in the development. But as I said before, the progress that you have made in such a short time is really highly commendable.
Thank you, Stefan, and thank you, Chairman, also for ensuring that we get good insights from Stefan. And I would now like to move on to the next part of our seminar today, which is the launch of the compendium on ensuring inclusion response to COVID-19, the good practices by Indian industry. As everybody said, while 2020 is going to be remembered as a year where we had this large-scale disruption of lives and livelihoods across the globe, and we all know this was particularly difficult for the persons with disability community who found themselves really vulnerable at this time. And as new ways of working and new norms emerged, we also witnessed many organizations stepping up and designing new systems and processes, keeping in mind the needs of the employees with disabilities to ensure that they were inclusive. Companies also focused on safety, well-being of employees while trying to ensure career continuity for them. So what we have done is, in keeping with our mantra in IBDN of amplifying, enabling cross learnings, which is one key part of our network, we undertook the task of documenting and compiling the inclusive practices of 16 of our member companies. This compendium that we are launching today celebrates and recognizes the companies that rose to the challenge and ensured safety, security, and support to persons with disabilities. It also includes some of the actions taken by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in ensuring that all communication and advocacy messages from the government are always inclusive. We just hope, like our chairman and everybody is saying, that this publication inspires more companies to adopt such practices, replicate them, and the ideas that have come out in this compendium create a more inclusive and diverse workforce. I would like to especially thank the ILO Global Business Disability Networks for supporting this initiative. This is very, very key to our work. As you can see on your screen, the list of the companies that are featured. We intend to continue this work, and you can access this compendium by going on the IBDN website. So thank you everyone who was a part of this documentation. And of course, thank you to my team led by Sarbani and also Kirti, who have been a key part of putting all this together. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of the first session of this national seminar on workplace inclusion of persons with disabilities, policies and incentives. And I want to thank each one of you who has, especially our panelists, our chairman, Mr. Kambata, Lakshmi for her insights, Ira for joining us, and of course, Stefan from Geneva for being so supportive of us. And to all of you who have joined from different parts, thank you very much. We now move on to the next very interesting and important session. As we mentioned that we are focusing on a session which is about policies and schemes, and we have representatives from different government, representatives from state and national level. And I'm now going to pass on this particular session to Sheila Das Gupta, Global Lead for Disability and Neurodiversity Inclusion, Tata Consultancy Services, to take us through the discussions for the next session. Over to you, Sheila. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seema. And I think I am so proud to be part of IBDN. Happy and also to see how far we've come. So from the first meeting, so I think it's amazing. And thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Seema, for this opportunity. So I like to just give a small little context. I think when the rights for persons with disabilities first, probably we're still trying to pinch ourselves to see if we were dreaming or not, because it was something that we were hoping for, but we didn't know that it. And with so much comprehensive, progressive content in it. And several others were on this network recognize the fact that inclusion, but the framework of the government being to provide a reference point for creating an equal opportunity to recognize that 21 disabilities instead of 7. Like compulsory accountability instead of so that made everybody sit up, which was a huge help for people who and have talking points when one is speaking to leaders, and also to everybody else when we are hiring talent, when we are looking at creating an ecosystem which is enabling. So networks. So that, I think, is what really is the power of actually brought. It also, because it refers so much to and pillars of development, it has a global appeal. So to most of us companies who are multinational companies, communicate with, like we work in 43 different countries, and I have what the disability policy is trying to say, even though it is focused on India, it is still relevant. It is something that we really need to be cognizant. I think some of the things that this year has highlighted is, of course, COVID has turned everything. I think it's highlighted is the importance of digital access, and that's one thing I want to highlight, and possibly I'll bring it up in the Q&A. Physical access and focusing on the timelines there, that all of us kind of gives. Apart from the fact that, of course, like we made sure that people who are visually impaired do have a that COVID really forced upon all of us, is something that really been, for me, like a highlight of this year. Also, I think mentioned about invisible disabilities, because out of the 1 billion persons with disability in the world, 450 of them do not seek any kind of help because it is so deeply stigmatized even now. It was a kind of a leveler, because it was not like were all going through difficult times. The nature may have differed, the intensity may have differed, but it brought to the forefront that it important to talk about mental health. It is important to talk about well-being, and it can it something which is sidelined anymore. So without further ado, I will have to spend more time on giving more detailed panel, but I will introduce you very briefly. Is Riti Dubey, who's the Vice President Human introduce Sambhav, and you have about 7-8 minutes to do so.
Thank you so much, Srila, for that introduction. Your line was slightly difficult to catch, but I'm guessing it's my turn next, so I'll get started in the interest of time anyway. You did mention about digital access and the fact that the pandemic led us to think about digital access in a more important or strategic manner. I think the pandemic also led us to think about connectivity and communication, and both these things played a key role in how we supported our employees during the COVID times. Once again, I just want to briefly introduce myself, Riti Dubey. I represent NatWest Group India and I lead the inclusion agenda for them. I will talk about an initiative which actually we fast tracked owing to the current pandemic. This is called Sambhav. So the genesis of the initiative is that early this year we had one of our employees who is a mother of a child with disability, and she reached out to us and she mentioned that to find the right resources for her daughter's treatment, she stumbled upon too many good or bad therapists, doctors, resources, a lot of hit and trial which both she and her child went through. Not a great experience for the kid, and she wanted to connect with other parents going through the same and save them the agony by sharing the resources that worked for her. We clearly saw a need, but we thought that, why not look externally right now to find out if there is something which is existing already. We surveyed some 15 websites which right now exist globally. These websites claim to connect people with disability. However, when we did a detailed research of these websites, they did not cater to the need that we had, exact need that we had in mind. And in fact, a very few had people from India joining them. So nothing that matched what we wanted to do. This was definitely a positive step because it reinforced that there is a need to create some digital access and get people together to talk about and support each other. But we also wanted to find out from other parents how they were feeling and other people with disability. And with that in mind, we ran a survey. We reached out to a few people with disability. We also reached out to a few parents and carers of people with disability and some experts as well working in this field. And the survey responses were really telling. They were quite eye-opening for us. 63% of parents who filled the survey felt and said that they didn't have access to any support group when they found out about the disability in the initial days. 75% of the respondents who had access to the support group stated that, for them to find a support group was not very easy. 65% of the respondents stated that apart from blogs and other platforms, if they had some information on people's personal experiences, that would have helped them fast track their journey of understanding and living with a disability. 53% of them very clearly said that there is a dearth of information available online digitally right now on disability, and 60% of them were quite willing to share their experiences through personal chats or videos or blogs, whichever way we wanted them to tell people about their experiences and help people in their journey. And lastly, 79% of them said that they would like to contribute to any such portal being created to bring people together. So very positive and telling responses. And with this theme in mind, we worked alongside CII team and our own technology team to build a platform that could bring parents and carers of people with disability themselves, some experts working in this space, and volunteers who want to support other PWD together. So this platform is called Sambhav. we launched the platform in partnership with CII last evening, and I'm really proud to say that the platform has just started seeing and reaching out to the wider population right now. Initially, it was only the CII team and the NatWest group who were there, but now since the launch yesterday, we've started seeing many more organizations becoming interested in finding out more about Sambhav. So Sambhav simply brings together PWDs, parents, carers of PWDs, experts, and volunteers. The discussion can be as varied as we want it to be, from accessibility to inclusive education to resources available with regards to various disabilities, to employment opportunities or development opportunities, assistive devices that people need for daily basis or for corporate jobs. It could be, the opportunities are huge. And I am looking forward to the IBDN network to help us make this successful, to ensure that it reaches where it is needed most. We will shortly be sharing the details over an email also with the whole IBDN network. And it will be great if you can encourage your employees to join and be a part of the Sambhav family. With this, I also officially want to thank Sharbani, Kirti, who've spent a lot of time in the last 4 months designing the portal with us, and just initiating and discussing and bringing the external specialist also into the conversation to help and guide us and shaping the portal and bringing it to the final launch the way it is right now. So with that, I hand it back to you, Srila. In case there are any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer. But I really look forward to the IBTN network joining the Sambhav portal very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Riti. It was very insightful and concise, and I mixed the two words up. And thank you for giving us those details. I will definitely pass the word around. Before I move on to our next speaker, I just want to tell all participants that if you have questions, could you please put them on the chat, and the team will be looking at the questions, and we'll try and take some of them before we close. My next speaker is Vikash Prasad, who's the Director, Department of Disability Affairs, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The next 10 minutes are yours to tell us about the Rights for Persons with Disabilities Act, and particularly, I think in the context of corporates would be very useful. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sirla ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank Chairman sir and the CIA team for doing this seminar at a very appropriate moment on the eve of World Disability Day, which is tomorrow. And the topic which I am asked to speak is about the Rights of Persons with Disability Act and what are the provisions therein for the corporate sectors in order to comply with the guidelines. So, next one. Next one. Next. Since the time is very limited, so just I will go into the relevant provisions of the Act directly. So, as you all know that the Rights of Persons of Disability Act has been passed, and it has been notified on 19th April 2017. And the rules were also framed and notified on 15th June 2017. So as per the Act and the rules, the synopsis of the provision I have given, as per Section 3.3 and Rule 3, all the employers means any type of establishment having more than 20 persons who are employing more than 20 persons has to ensure that PWDs are not discriminated in their organizations, so that they need to have a person deputed, especially wherein the persons with disability can come and make their complaints. That nominated person has to be notified and told in their websites and other prominent places, and they need to be, whatever complaint needs to be come to them, they need to take appropriate action, And then there is also a provision that if any provision is made in the company or in the premises of the company, the persons with disabilities are not forced to pay for those provisions which has been made for them. Just like many places we receive complaint that they are asked to purchase software or something like that, so that the accessible provisions can be made for the persons with disability. So that needs to be provided by the company itself. Second important is the notification of equal opportunity policy regarding employment. So this is notified under Rule 8, wherein all the companies, all the establishments has to notify equal opportunity policy, wherein they have to tell their employers what employees and persons with disability particularly, that what are the accessibility features they are going to provide, what are the assistive devices they are going to give to their employees, and what are their promotional avenues are there which will be available, and then the skilling, what is skilling or pre-promotion or whatever training they need, that will be given by the company. And then what are the benefits, other benefits, just like the transfer benefits or the housing benefits, if any, that needs to be defined here, and it has to be notified in their websites and other prominent places in the company guidelines. Then Rule 9 is there, under section 22, their Rule 9 has been notified, wherein they have to maintain the records of persons PWD employed in their company. And there is a format given in the Rule 9, wherein they have to give all the details of the PWDs regarding type of disability, age, what are their income, wages, or whatever is there, is to be clearly notified under that year. And it has to be kept ready so that any inspecting authority can come and inspect over there and can see and cross-verify with the documents. Then section 16 of the Act tells about the educational institutions has to provide inclusive education to children with disabilities. So all the educational institutions, whether it is for the general students or special schools, has to have an inclusive education. And there is also another section in the Act wherein it's tell that the educational institutions who are nearest to the home of that PWD child cannot deny admission to that child to their school. And once they have to take, and then they have to make adequate arrangement for that. It is not just taking admission, they have to provide education in the real sense by making accessibility provisions. Teachers has to be trained, such educational material has to be provided. So every provision has to be made. Further, in the higher education under section 32, whether it's private institution or government institution, whatever higher educations are there, educational institutes are there, 5% reservation for PWD has to be made in the institutions, and it has to be made in a very distributed manner with all types of disability included. Just like in government rules, there is 1% disability for each types of disability. Okay, so next. Now, let us come into the accessibility part of the RPWD Act. The accessibility part of RPWD Act generally comes from section 40 to 46. So the main provisions of the Act, which is more centric towards the private establishments, are from 44 to 46, wherein every private establishment has to comply with the accessibility guidelines and rules which has been notified under Rule 15. So under Rule 15, three guidelines has been notified as of date. First guideline is about the harmonized guidelines for buildings. Second guideline is about the bus standards, where the bus state transport corporation has to adhere to the buses. And third is about the website accessibility. So three guidelines has been already notified. And the timelines has been given. So these were notified on 15th June 2017. And for making building accessible, 5-year time has been given. So that means it will be over by 15th June to 2022 for buildings. And for websites, only 2 years has been given, and which is already over on 15 June 2019. So that, so now after the time period is over, now it is justiciable. Justiciable means any person with disability can go into the court of law or even to the state disability commissioner or CCPD, wherever they like, and can get it enforced by them. So that is about section 44 and 45, that I was told that 5-year timeline has been given for the buildings, has to be made accessible, and it has to be made accessible as per the standards. It is not as per the what one perceives. So that standard is very elaborate standard which has been taken out by Ministry of Housing Affairs, and that is called harmonized guidelines, wherein each and every type of disability features has been given, whether it is ramp, what gradient of the ramp should be, what material it should be, what should be the handrail size, how the handrail should be made, what should the lift comprise of, what are the features which will be present in the lift, and all types of basic details are given there. So that needs to comply to that standard only. Otherwise, then if anybody provides a gradient of more than 1:12, then it will happen that gradient will not be workable. It can cause us a safety aspect will be there, and the person can also feel difficult to negotiate that gradient. So those aspects has been taken care of, and it is comparable to the standards, European standard and US standards. It has been made in that way. Similarly, for the websites also, the guidelines has been notified, and for the private websites, they need to comply with WCAG 2AA standards guideline. So that standard is also a standard which is being adopted by most of the European and US countries. So those guidelines are also at par with the world standard only, and that websites needs to be accessible, and even the web applications which are being made in the mobile apps are also need to be made accessible with that standard only. So these are the provisions of the accessibility in the act, which is to be complied by the all the establishment, private establishment or government establishment. It is applicable to all, and it is same. The timelines are also same. And then for the private institutions or the NGOs who are working in the field of disability or providing services and benefits or welfare measures, they need to get registered with the state's disability department in order to give any services, so that before they start giving the services, they need to get registered. Next. Now, these are the skill developments which everybody has spoken about, so I will not go into these because companies are already taking it up. So, as far as next, you can go. Next. So, I mean to say that the most important part that a corporate sector can play is by providing them the job opportunity and giving them the skilling. So that will break the vicious cycle of poverty and disability, because it has been seen that the segment in which the disability mostly exists is in the poorer category. So once that those vicious cycle can be broke by employability and increased access to education, health, and community support. Next. So we have already talked about accessibility and Accessible India campaign. Accessible India campaign is a campaign launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on 3rd December 2015, and in this accessibility is being taken care already. Around 1,500 buildings of state government and central government has been made accessible. 710 railway stations has been made accessible. Similarly, airports are being made accessible, and the bus transport systems are being made accessible. Already 800 websites of the government has been made accessible. with the standards. So these are the major steps the government is taking to make their own features more accessible. So with this, I also request the corporate sector to come forward and make the whole ecosystem more accessible to the persons with disability, so that they can the equal opportunity and the inclusion is really achieved in our society as has been envisaged in this act. So with that, I think my time is over. So I would like to finish. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. I know all of us have an idea about the act, but I think this you gave us the details so beautifully. So thank you very much for that. I would like to invite our next speaker, Prabodh Seth, who's Joint Secretary, Department of Disability Affairs, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Now that we know about the Act, can you tell us a little about the incentives that are there? So yes, corporates recognize the fact that it is the right thing to do, but there's also a question of what's in it for me. So over to you, sir. Next 10 minutes is yours.
Thank you, Sheila. Am I audible?
Perfectly audible.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the CII for giving me an opportunity to speak on this occasion. Tomorrow is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And today we are having a discussion on various issues concerning persons with disabilities. We just had a discussion, we just had a presentation on the rights of persons with Disabilities Act by Vikas. And I will basically be talking of the incentive scheme. But before I move on to the incentive scheme, first of all, I would like to put things in perspective. And we start with where Vikas left off, and that is the rights of persons with disabilities. Because before I talk about the incentive scheme, I'll try to relate the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act to the various provisions in the Act, plus various schemes, policies, and programs of the department to promote employment amongst persons with disabilities. Now, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act provides for has provisions for employment for persons with disabilities, both in the government and also and when we talk of government, we have both the self-employment as well as the wage employment schemes. Now, as regards the wage employment, that is employing people with disabilities, the reservation for persons with disabilities that has been raised from 3% to 4% in various government establishments. So that is one of the provisions of in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, which promotes inclusion of persons with disabilities in the workplace. Apart from this, we have a scheme that is known as the National Action Plan for Skill Development, wherein avenues are provided to persons with disabilities to get skilled. And once these are skilled, then there will be a demand for such persons in the job market, and they will be able to get jobs, and they will also be able to employ themselves by taking a loan or by having some financial resources with them. So this basically promotes self-employment for persons with disabilities. The National Action Plan for Skill Development promotes employment for persons, and it is operated through the empaneled training partners and also our national institutes and compository centers spread across the country. So this is about the initiatives of the government for promoting employment. And another very important initiative of the government, which about which not much publicity has been given, and still a lot of people are not very aware of the provisions of a very attractive scheme, which in fact incentivizes private sector to employ persons with disabilities. And when we talk of incentivizing persons with disabilities in private sector, then this scheme comes in. So I would like to give you some of the brief points about this scheme. This scheme actually started way back in 2007-8, and this underwent a revision in 2016. 2007-8, the scheme for incentivizing private sector to employ persons with disabilities was not very attractive because of a number of restrictions imposed therein. Like, for instance, that scheme has had a wage restriction. Then the scheme, the way in which the funds were to be reimbursed by the government to the private employers who employ persons with disabilities was also very complicated. Plus, there were some other restrictions. It was limited only to 3 years. So, in order to improve this scheme, we had discussions with a lot of stakeholders. A committee under the chairmanship of additional secretary was appointed, and they looked into various aspects of the then prevailing scheme for incentivizing private employers to employ persons with disabilities, and found that it has to be made more attractive, it has to be made more seamless, and with a view to making it more attractive and seamless, and making the process of transmission of funds from the government to the private employer who employs persons with disabilities easier and seamless, the new scheme was launched in 2016. This scheme, in fact, incentivizes private employers to employ persons with disabilities, and there is no wage ceiling. So, irrespective of whether the employee who is a person with disability gets 25,000 or a lakh of rupees or 5 lakh of rupees, the employer's contribution to Provident Fund for and the ESI will be reimbursed by the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. So, without any wage ceiling. So, irrespective of the wage which a person with disability is getting, the employer's contribution will be reimbursed by the government. So that is the first provision, and that will be for a period of 10 years. Earlier, this provision was only for a period of 3 years. So, two very important changes which have been brought about by the revised scheme is that doing away with wage ceiling, and secondly, increasing the period for which government will be reimbursing the employer's contribution from 3 years to 10 years. So, this is the first thing. Then the second thing is the gratuity. 1/3 of the gratuity contribution made by the employer will also be reimbursed by the government. So, that is another very important point as regards the incentive scheme. The third thing is has to do with, third very important feature has to do with the way in which government reimburses the employer's contribution to Provident Fund. Now, in the revised scheme, the employer has to inform the ESI or the EPF organizations that this is the list of the employees, and this is the employee's contribution. So, as we all know, employer's contribution has to be matching. So, once this list is provided to by the employer to the ESI or the EPF, giving the names of persons with disabilities or employees with disabilities, their salary, and the employee's contribution, the employer's contribution is automatically then transferred by the EPF and ESI to the employer. And once this is transferred to the employer, the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities reimburses the amount which has been borne by the ESI or the EPF. So, the employer, for the employer, it's a very hassle-free mechanism, because without any problem, the employer's contribution, or the contribution which had to be given or made by the employer, is given by the ESI or the EPF, which in turn gets reimbursed by the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. So, this is another very important feature of this scheme. Earlier, this mechanism used to take a lot of time. The list of the employer had to make payment, had to make its contribution, then this list was provided to the ESI and EPF. ESI and EPF used to provide this to the department, and till the time the department reimbursed that contribution, the employer had to wait, and this used to take a considerable period of time, which disincentivized employers to come under this scheme. So now, with the mechanism having been made so simple and seamless, I think it is high time for employers to come forward and take advantage of this scheme. I really wonder why this scheme has not become as popular as it should have been, because now it is without any wage ceiling. It's the employer's contribution is for a period of 10 years, which is reimbursed by the department. The mechanism of transmission of funds has been made very simple and seamless. Then 1/3 of gratuity contribution is also paid by the department. So all these are very attractive feature. Another important feature which I would like to tell is the administrative charges which were applicable on EPF and ESI. That will also, which used to come to 1.1%, that will also be borne by the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. So even administrative charges now there have not to be borne by the employer. So this again will be provided by the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. Another very, very attractive feature is that if suppose an employee with disability is hired as an apprentice by an organization, by a company, and subsequently the apprentice is absorbed in the organization, then the entire amount which is borne by the employer by way of payment of apprenticeship to the employee with disability will be borne by the department. Suppose there is an apprentice who works for a period of 1 year and gets a salary of say 50,000 rupees, apprenticeship allowance of 50,000 rupees. Then in the second year that employee with disability is absorbed in the organization, then 50,000 for 12 months, which comes to 6 lakh of rupees, will be reimbursed by the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities to the employer, which has absorbed that person with disability after successful completion of apprenticeship. So this is another very attractive and important feature. So these are the prime and important features of this new scheme for incentivizing employers to hire persons with disabilities. And I have tried to explain all these in a very simple and lucid fashion. In fact, I had a discussion with Sarbani and I told her about it. And I also told her that if there is a forum where there are some private companies are there and who are interested in this type of a scheme, I would make a very lucid and simple presentation, which I think I have done, and I think I have tried to explain it in a very simple form, so that all those who are willing to be a part of this scheme and want to employ persons with disabilities and take advantage of this incentive scheme can come forward. I think this is all I had to say about the scheme, and I'm sure that if this scheme is disseminated, and I think CII is the right forum, if it can disseminate this scheme amongst private employers, big corporates, and they can, if they go through the scheme through wide publicity, if it reaches them, I think a lot of them will come forward. There are a lot of persons with disabilities who can work wonderfully well, who are experts in their respective fields, who have aptitudes in different fields, and if their skills, their aptitude is taken advantage of, so not only the employer will gain by way of increased productivity in the organization, because persons with disabilities work without any disturbance, work with a lot of devotion and dedication. So there will not only be an increase in productivity of the organization, there will not only be an increase in the output of the organization, but at the same time, they will get an additional bonus in the form of this incentive scheme, whereby Government of India will and the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities will reimburse the employer's contribution to PF and ESI and avail of various other benefits. So with these words, I once again thank the CII for giving me an opportunity to speak about the scheme. I'm sure with more dissemination of the scheme by CII, this can become a very popular scheme and can prove to be instrumental insofar as inclusion of persons with disabilities in workplace is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabodh. I think you gave us very exciting information, and there are already questions coming in on it, but I'll hold on to them and invite...
Srila, 1 second, Srila.
Yes.
You don't mind, because...
Not at all. I know, even I am dying to ask questions.
As a chairman, probably I can have the prerogative of probably ramping in. So, Mr. Prabhu, thank you very much. It's a very good interaction. Last time also we had a very good interaction, and you are absolutely correct. And I should compliment you for actually providing this little silver lining. And I'm sure people are not going to take this because of the schemes, but yes, that's some small benefit. My only request is, can you just give us the official GR or the notifications under ESI, PF and Apprentice Act, because all said and done, the legal process has to be followed by some change in the law. So if you can just provide us the copies of the actual government notifications, it will help us in spreading the information as suggested by you, sir. That is the only point I have. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, we'll certainly provide. You can, it is available with us. And we will certainly provide all this information.
Please put on the website only. No, put it on the website, because we are not able to access it.
It is there in the website. The notification, I am not sure, but the scheme is there on the website. If you go to the website, you will find this incentive scheme there in the website of the department, which gives the basic brief features of all the of this scheme. You can just download it and then disseminate it. It is there. In fact, today itself I saw on the website that it is very much available on the website.
No, we wanted the notification, sir. Just if you can give us the notification, because schemes, maybe the local ESI commissioner and the PF department may not want to see that.
Okay. Notification also we'll take that notification and put it on the website.
Thank you so much, Chairman, because you kind of took the words out of my mouth and asked that critical question. And thank you, Prabodh, once again. We do look forward to notification. I now hand over the mic to V.S. Basavaraju, who is the Commissioner, Disabilities, Government of Karnataka. Karnataka kind of stands out for the very, very remarkable work that they have been doing around disabilities. Can you share with us best practices from your state, sir?
Thank you. So first of all, let me thank the CII and the IBN team and all of you for this opportunity. And I'm sure both my Dr. Prabodh Seth and Vikas Prasad has given you a lot of information. I think I would stick to the kind of practices that what we do in Karnataka, so that it's complement, the focus. So, like ma'am, you said very clearly that we have been trying to see what are the best practices that we could adopt, so that it is at the level of principles. We believe that it is a joint work. Both people with disability, the industries, and the NGO world and technology, how all of us can come together so that people with disability will be provided an employment on equal basis. Towards this, almost 5 years from now, there is a body called Disability NGO Alliance, which is an organizations of people with disability. They have about 150 organizations. So we brought all these organizations together, and we also ensured that the industry came together. So we had series of meetings in order to explore the possible opportunity. And to our great surprise and support, many of the industries were very, very open. And in fact, they came together, they came up with the suggestions and how we could move forward. The focus of us was to look at in terms of providing employment for severe disability, multiple disability, and intellectual disability. Because all of us know that we have made some headway in terms of providing employment for visually impaired, deafness, and all others. So the area which is untouched was intellectual disability and severe disability. So the focus was to make sure that this category also get into that. As a result of that, I think we launched as Mission 1000. So that the part of the mission was to bring all the stakeholders together and see what contribution each one of them can make. And this is was led by both DNA and Enable. Both these organizations have led this, and we sort of zero it down to kind of where are the opportunities, and we also started go ahead and signed up with several corporate organizations, and there are over 50 corporate organizations, about 40 voluntary organizations, and hundreds of parents have came together. They signed up, and we very methodically went about identifying the area in which they can contribute, and also we use combination of some of the training what NGOs can provide, or the the corporate itself can provide, and trainers also. So we use the corporate bodies also to come and train, and also help us handholding how to prepare people with disability, so that they will very quickly slide into the job. Cafe Coffee Day and Wipro and many such organizations very willingly, openly came. Many of them were come as a volunteers. The employees of these organizations came as a volunteer. That become very, very handy for us. In fact, they become the lead and started sort of taking each job, analyzing it, and developing tools and techniques. So as a result, we were able to sort of put an employment for the last 2.5 years over 100+ people with intellectual disability. And we also came up with a small projects where some of the CSR can join in. And we also developed a training manuals. There are many organizations in the meantime, they came together. We identified the biggest gap was the trainers. The biggest gap was people preparing for industry, and also listen what exactly is the difficulty and how to solve it. So we encouraged few organizations to come up with the trainers training manual, and there's an organization called which is led by both and parent, and they have launched, organization name is Nitya Sadhana, a short-term weekend program. So there are about 20-30 professionals came together, they got trained. So they further sort of taken this work forward. And of course, this has been, of course, a work in progress. We have to continuously, work towards it. And as a result, even in the districts, even in a rural area, we were able to create employment. Even the small employers are able to absorb these people. So quite encouraging, and we have recorded this. And if you could visit Enable India website, you can get a lot of these small videos and all that efforts have been done. And we also sort of joined hands with Rotary and some of the industry leaders there. And Rotary has signed up with DNA and to take this forward to major cities like Dharwad. And so this was a very, very good move, because we had the opportunity to directly interact with the founders of the industries and the professionals, and of course the training organizations. So this is actually accelerated, provide a very, very positive environment, so that the few barriers, the issues of mindset and all that being addressed without much difficulty. Of course, there's a long way to go, because in terms of technology, in terms of using simple tools and technique, we have been taking the help of some startup companies. Bangalore has got many startup companies for people with disability to develop products and services. So luckily, they also played a key role in enabling to find some resources for us. We use their help as well. And of course, as a government, we have been very, very proactively involving in them and connecting to government resources, and also making sure that they follow a certain structured approach. See, for example, Section 21-22, any company wanted to create an equal opportunity policy with us. So we have used the harmonized guidelines checklist to begin with. And we hand over them in terms of, are they following the basics? So if they have a difficulty, can we just go ahead and sit with them and connect the right voluntary organizations, right the professionals, so that they will develop the kind of skills, the kind of the atmosphere and other colleagues, so that they can welcome people with disability when they go there. And also, if there are difficulties when they encounter while person with disability there, how to solve it and whom to approach. So these are the simple mechanism we put in place. So I think it seems to be working, and we have to look at with the organization like CII how we could scale it up. It's certainly an issue, and you know that industry is all the time busy, and industry has a limited time span, and so that we need to really figure it out how we can use these best practices so that not just Karnataka, the rest of India should benefit, and many more people with disability could really get employment and lead life with dignity. And I must sort of say here, one of the key role what we identified is a role by the parents, and most important, to prepare the parent to have realistic expectations. I think having no expectation or having over expectations, both are the challenges. So in order to really manage this, we engage right from the beginning in terms of identifying the job, in terms of training the person, in terms of go and sit with the with this ward for some time, and they actually come back and coach, prepare. I think some of these tactics and techniques and process has really worked, and we have made some headway in some of the area, but certainly a lot could happen. A lot of innovation is required. I would only urge the industry leaders, to create more open and also nominate one or two critical people who has some interest, and so that we will be able to sort of co-work with them. And once if we handhold them for 1 or 2, 3 years, and they will be the spokesperson for disability, not any one of us. I think we need to create spokespersons for disability in the industry itself, because this is what is going to change. And wherever our people have worked, I think we got a very good positive feedback, and more and more industry came back and appointing more such people with disabilities. So this is a very encouraging sign. But most importantly, we need to really match the job and the skill set of person with disability. I think the matching and training the child and the co-workers and the environment seems to be more critical part of this work. And I'm sure Mr. Prabhu Seth and Mr. Vikas Prasad and our will also put some scheme to help us to provide this kind of a ecosystem and a training, because we know that we have a great law. We know this is a very, very promising law. I think to get to the level of rotation, get to the level of reaching more people, I think a little bit R&D, a little bit of resources is a requirement. I think CII should also help government also in terms of what kind of resources we can commit, and how CII and industry body and us can have a road map in the days to come. So that at least in 5 years from now, we should say we have X percentage of people with disability in the job. And that is where I think we all can really say that we have done our best. And I'm sure with industry bodies like you and the state like us, we could always work together and see how we could ensure the dignity of disabled is taken care, and ensure that the family really welcome this kind of a kids. The family is at peace, and the family feel proud for whatever these kids are doing. As a society as a whole, will feel proud that we are able to contribute for the good of every one of us. So I think these are some of my experiences. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very happy to answer any of the questions anybody has. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was it was wonderful to listen about it, and I think just quickly there's a distinct query about whether these best practices have been documented, and if yes, how one can access it. But overall, I think the questions for the session, I can bucket them into requests. Requests and clarifications, comments and suggestions, and questions. So I think the overwhelming request really is about the notification, to actually second what the chairman asked for, because there have been comments that some organizations went to a particular state's PF office who had no idea about the scheme. So I think that notification becomes doubly important. Amongst other suggestions, yes, of course, matching ability to the job profile or skills to the job profile is absolutely essential. When the other thing request is, can one look at everything from a universal design lens, and does the government have any plans to bring that lens into its accessibility plans at some point of time? I think two requests come from the previous session. One is to look at accountability mechanisms. How the specific question is, how is the government measuring its success? So that's a specific question. Anybody from the panel can opt to respond to it.
Yeah, measurement of government success is basically in terms of the various initiatives of the government and what has been done with regard to physical empowerment, educational empowerment, economic empowerment of persons with disabilities. So we have the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act that was passed. Now, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act talks of overall empowerment of persons with disabilities. So we have a number of schemes, and all these schemes have certain outputs as well as certain outcomes. So we measure the performance of the department with regard to those outputs and outcomes. Whether, like, if we talk of physical empowerment, then the number of persons who were provided aids and assistive devices, number of camps organized, the amount spent, the number of cochlear implant surgeries. If you move to educational empowerment, the number of students with disabilities who are provided different types of scholarships, the amount disbursed to them, number of students who actually graduated to higher studies. Then economic empowerment, the number of persons who are provided skill training, the number of the backlog of vacancies which were there, how many of those have already been filled up. Then the states which have notified the rules, states which have independent commissioners, states which have set up the state advisory boards. So there are various ways by which we assess the performance. It is very difficult to say one indicator. There are so many indicators, and we try to assess the performance of the department in terms of output and outcome, keeping the targets or the objectives in mind.
And I think related to it is also a question to both CII, all organizations, and the government, is that can we work together towards creating an accountability framework? And will there be rewards and recognitions for organizations which are doing well?
Well, right now it is difficult to say, because unless the program CII comes up with a concrete plan and program, then there can always be discussion in that regard, and then we can take it forward from there.
Sure, thank you. And I think a lot of questions have come in, but they're related. So I would like to really thank the panelists. I think everybody's going to get in touch with Karnataka very soon, because there are requests of how can we tie up to hire people, and we'll tell the Bangalore office to get in touch with you, so on and so forth. There was a question on how to motivate corporates to build in a disability inclusion program. My recommendation is, please have conversations internally within your organization, leverage our RPWD, call in people. The entire IBDN is at your service. Any of us, you want to set up a panel discussion, just invite us for it, and we can talk to your employee about that. So with that, I think I would like to say,
Srila, once again, once again, for chipping. There is one query or suggestion from Mr. Rajendran, and he's talking of us promoting entrepreneurship. And I think Mr. Sheth also referred to that, because only job seeking is not today. Everybody was looking at startups and entrepreneurships, and of course, PWDs cannot be far. So I think it's a very good suggestion. Now, I really don't know. I think we should reply to him that how do we plan to all work together to ensure that they, instead of being job seekers, they actually become job providers. I like the word. So how do we do that? And I'll be very happy to get involved in whatever way. One simple solution is that if we have enough people who are doing something, we can have a virtual fair, a buyer-seller meet, where these people can showcase what they are doing. For example, we do buyer-seller meet for affirmative action. And I'm sure Mr. Prabodh Sheth will also support us from the government side for a buyer-seller meet, especially for PWD entrepreneurs. Just as a starting, this is something we can do for sure.
Yeah, in fact, when I was a very nice point put forward by the chairman. In fact, I would like to say that before I moved on to the incentive scheme, I said there is a national action plan for skill development. When we talk of skill development of persons with disabilities, we are actually thinking in terms of making them entrepreneurs. We are trying to skill them so that they can start their self-employment ventures. And those ventures, if they turn out to be successful, the scale can always be increased. And we provide concessional loan also through our National Handicapped Finance and Development Corporation. So with the help which we can provide through the National Action Plan for Skill Development, and also a concessional loan through the National Handicapped Finance and Development Corporation, we can in fact support them and nurture them so that the ventures which have started as at micro level may turn out to be mid-level and then ultimately turn out to be a large-scale venture. And instead of being job seekers, they become job providers. So that National Action Plan for Skill Development, which we launched some years back, that actually aims at promoting entrepreneurship amongst persons with disabilities. And that's a very good program which we implement through our national institutes, composite regional centers, and also through our empaneled training partners. So there is a separate skill division. And if you want, you can send somebody. I can redirect that person to that skill division. They can provide them a lot of inputs as to how this sort of skill can be provided to persons with disabilities. And any good empaneled training partner, it can be an NGO. Basically, empaneled training partners are NGO. If there is a well-meaning NGO, because the problem is a lot of empaneled training partners, some of them they just take the money and then run away. So the thing is that there needs to be a well-meaning, genuine, non-governmental organization, and that comes up as an empaneled training partner, which has good ideas as to the areas where there's a lot of demand demand, and if persons with disabilities are able to acquire skill in that particular field, then there will be a lot of demand for their products. So this type of analysis, if some NGO has done, somebody has done, then that can actually prove to be very valuable, and then that person can that person can provide skills in that area, so that these persons with disabilities then start working in that direction, become entrepreneurs, and then later on turn out to be big time businessmen, and they can provide a lot of employment to PWDs.
I think we've covered, this kind of closes the loop of the takeaways from this session, which includes a platform like Sambhav, which includes knowledge on the act itself, which includes accessibility tips, which includes best practices, which includes a range of skills and incentives that one can leverage. And at the end of it is the question of like the sky is the limit, really, because if you're looking at a world where we have entrepreneurship development, we have skill development, we have employers willing to take people in. We just probably need to figure out how we leverage each other's strengths and keep our communication and conversations going, which I know that IBDN is very capable of, and CII is. So, and I think a lot is also there in the compendium to understand about what practices that one can take up. With that, thank you, Chairman, for bringing up the entrepreneurship question. Who do I hand it back to? Hand it back to Seema, I think. Thank you, panelists, for a wonderful discussion.
Seema, are you there?
Mr. Khambata, this is Sharbani this side. It would be great if you can close the today's seminar, please.
No, that's fine.
Over to the chairman.
So thank you very much to all the panelists, and especially our representatives from the government, and Mr. Prabhu paid a special thanks to you for joining.
Many thanks.
And honestly, I think this whole thing has shown us that in this sector, like COVID, government and us at the central level, state level, we have to work very closely. And Ahmedabad, where I come from, EDI Institute is at the forefront, and I luckily know them. I also go there for sometimes for courses. I will also talk to EDI. We'll be very happy if we can set up some virtual classes for entrepreneurship development for the sector. Maybe that is a quick takeaway I'm getting from today's meeting. And Mr. Seth, I would also take your help in how to take this forward. I think EDI would be also able to make some special programs for that. And we will also take up this virtual fairs also very quickly. And in the end, I would once again thank you all for this notable cause on this very important one day prior to the World Disability Day. And thank you for all for your participation, especially the people who are listening to us very patiently, and for all their ideas which we have got here on the chat boxes. Thank you again for all the people who have bothered to give us ideas on the chat boxes. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.